Welcome to episode 2 of Bonus Stage Plus. Of course, my name is Billy of the Bonus Stage, and now, of course, Bonus Stage Plus. It's pretty much the bonus stage, but, with this entire visual element right here. We've got news, we got trailers, we got gameplay, and of course we have someone dropping in later on the show. We'll be chatting with them in just a bit, and if you're looking for clues or hints on who that might be, just watch the entire show and you might just pick up some hints on who it could be. But without further ado, here's the news. Our first story for today comes by way of Ghost of Tsushima, which is of course the game that we featured on our first episode of Bonus Stage Plus, and it also happens to be a gorgeous PS4 exclusive. The folks over at PlayStation know this, and they've released a staggering amount of data regarding the first 10 days of release. So just the first 10 days, so we're talking July 17 up to the 27th, I guess, and that doesn't include whatever time after that up to the time we're shooting this particular episode. I mean, the figures have only gone up, but it's an interesting look into just how much time people spent in this game. And the big one here is that 15.5 million photos were taken in Ghost of Tsushima's first 10 days. And I can totally understand why that happens, because of course it has a very easy to use photo mode. The game looks amazing, and yes, about accessibility, all you have to do is just hit right on the D-pad right here and you're in there. Of course, you can disable that if you don't want to accidentally enter photo mode in the middle of the fight, but who would want to disable photo mode? Anyway, going back to that, they've also released some extra data regarding the first 10 days of release, and yeah, these are some pretty big numbers that I'm going to be reading out and showing you guys. So they've spent, or well, players have spent 810.3 years on horseback, 16.2 million hot springs or onsen have been visited, 14.2 million haikus were written, and 28.1 million flute songs have been played. That is a lot of people playing the game and just doing all that stuff repeatedly throughout the game because, well, you really got to immerse yourself in the atmosphere or in the setting, right? And with that, industry analyst Daniel Ahmad also pointed out that breaking down the particular statistic about 15.5 million photos taken, that would mean 17 photos were taken every second of the gameplay by the entire Ghost of Tsushima player base. And I'd like to think that I'm also guilty of this because I opted into the data collection option when I started up the game, and come on, I mean, part of the experience for Ghost of Tsushima at this point is just really spending hours and hours in the photo mode because it's just that good, and the game really does deserve to be shown off. I mean, I'm running this off of a base PS4, and it still looks fantastic. Of course, the frame rate takes a bit of a hit, but that's already with the hardware. But whatever, I'm gonna just quote something I said last week, whatever black magic that Sucker Punch is using in basically making this game, it is working and it looks great even on a launch model PS4. So do give it a look. And he also points out, by the way, Daniel Ahmad also points out that this is an amazing publicity tool for PlayStation because they do not have to spend $1 to get this game in people's eyeballs and get people talking about it. So I would say that's a really clever marketing move, and every game that needs a photo mode, of course, must have a photo mode. And for our next story, coming hot on the heels of last episode's Hawkeye reveal for Marvel's Avengers, is another post-launch DLC character, and this time it is your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. However, there are a couple of caveats to this. First, don't expect him to look anything like he did in 2018's Marvel Spider-Man, because that's a completely different developer, and considering that this is Crystal Dynamics and not Insomniac Games, yeah, don't expect that Peter Parker to show up. Maybe an amalgamation or just a different take on it, but not the exact character model. And with that is the other one, and this is going to be big because Peter Parker, Spider-Man, is going to be a PlayStation exclusive DLC character for Marvel's Avengers. According to a blog post by way of IGN Southeast Asia, PlayStation has confirmed that Spider-Man will be added to the playable roster in early 2021 at no additional cost to anyone who owns the base game. As previously leaked, Spider-Man will be exclusive to PlayStation owners, so if you happen to be playing on a platform that happens to not be a PlayStation, well, I hate to break it to you, but you're out of luck. You gotta spring for a PlayStation if you want Spider-Man in that game. Now, of course, Marvel's Avengers is going to be touted, or is already touted actually, as this ongoing / live service game, and they'll just keep adding characters as they go along. I'm not quite sure if Xbox also has its own exclusive Marvel character to them, but yeah, this is going to be a sore spot for a lot of people. I'm not sure how you guys feel about, you know, console exclusive characters, so sound off in the comments. Let's have a little discussion on it, shall we? And our third story for today is something that's been on my calendar for about maybe a week or two, and I'm just glad that I woke up pretty early last Saturday to actually catch this. It's the Japan Fighting Game Publishers Roundtable. And you're probably wondering, why did they hold this? Well, it's 2020. We know that a lot of events got canceled for, of course, various reasons, not excluding the pandemic that we're all going through right now. So in lieu of a big stage for all these companies to make their big announcements or big reveals, instead Bandai Namco sort of spearheaded this online event where you get a panel discussion, or pretty much a roundtable, involving the biggest names in the fighting game development and publishing scene in Japan. So you got folks from SNK, Arc System Works, Arika, Capcom, Koei Tecmo, and of course Bandai Namco Entertainment. These are the people behind King of Fighters, Samurai Showdown, Street Fighter, Fighting EX Slayer, Dead or Alive, Tekken, and Soul Calibur, and a whole bunch of other games. And it's nice to see them all together. They had a 1-hour discussion on some predetermined topics, which it's kind of a bummer that they didn't take live questions, although I could sort of understand why, because they're probably pressed for time. And these topics included improving single-player and online experiences, which I will admit they have a long way to go in those particular aspects. And with regards to improving online, please, if you're listening, add rollback netcode and a lot of things will be better. And I'm just glad that they're slowly doing it. Fighting EX Slayer, according to Akira Nishitani of Ariga, says that yes, rollback is being implemented now in Fighting EX Slayer, and it's available as an update as we speak. And Guilty Gear Strive will also be getting rollback netcode when it releases in early 2021. And another takeaway is that for something that was hyped as an event where they'd be making a lot of announcements, there were a lot of announcements of announcements. So not outright reveals, but a lot of the guys going like, oh, we have this other event that's happening a few days from now. Please catch that live stream. So there's that too. And I'd say that, you know, it took the wind out of the sails just a bit, but since we're just about to go into trailers, I'm glad that there's still a lot of stuff that they had to show. And we are going to get into those right about now. And our first trailer for today comes by way, of course, Tekken 7 Season 4. Yes, this is one of the things announced at the Publishers Roundtable that we just talked about a while ago. And come on, let's all admit it. The Philippines is Tekken country. It's easily the biggest fighting game franchise here, and to see that it's getting another season of content is always welcome news. That also means that, you know, they aren't quite full at work yet with Tekken 8, but, you know, I think we can still squeeze a few more years out of 7 before we fully roll on to 8. But maybe that's just me. So there's not a lot here. You can just expect new balance changes and new moves for every character across the board, and it's just nice to see Katsuhiro Harada presenting this trailer and presenting a positive message, you know, perfect for the times that we're in, which I'm not going to spoil that here. Let's roll that now.
Ready?
Keep your head up.
元気を出して。
Our next trailer also comes by way of Bandai Namco, and this time it's for Soul Calibur 6. It is for the third character of Season Pass 2. I'm talking about Setsuka, who is this lady dressed in a kimono who carries an umbrella with a sword hidden in it. Really badass, by the way, and she made her debut all the way back in Soul Calibur 3, that's in the mid-2000s on PS2, which eventually had an arcade version, but yes, it was a console exclusive to PS2 back then, and I'm just glad that she's back as part of Season Pass 2, which reminds me, I need to get that too. And of course, outside of just the character, you're also getting a new stage and more parts for the creation mode, which this time include a lot of Tekken-themed parts. So if you ever wanted to dress up your custom character like either Heihachi or Josie Rizal, you get the chance to do that. And she is dropping in pretty soon, but let's not wait any further. Here's the trailer.
When I closed my eyes, I was prepared to sleep for eternity. Ishiro Mitsurugi, you murdered my master! For that, I shall have your head!
Setsuka!
I did not teach you my techniques for revenge.
Even your eyes disgust me, daughter of savages.
Do not belittle yourself, no matter how others may see you. What you have inherited is Shugen Kokonoe's very soul!
How unfortunate! Flower petals shall line your grave! This is the work of fate. I merely played my part. I will strike you down and keep moving forward.
Oh. I know that guard.
It seems I must also draw steel.
And our third trailer for today also comes from the Japan fighting game publishers Roundtable. This was one of the last trailers to be played and is easily one of the hypest out of the set, because this one is for Guilty Gear Strive, and they show not just one, but two characters, finally revealing that one dude from the announcement trailer all the way back in EVO of last year, and we're gonna get to that. The first one they show is Leo Whitefang, who is returning from Guilty Gear Xrd. He gets a redesign, and for those of you not familiar with who Leo is, Think of him as a tall dude who kinda looks like a lion, hence the name, or if it goes the other way around, who this time is wearing a huge coat and is carrying two big swords that he uses as shields from time to time, which could also be used to describe the next character I'm about to talk about, but this guy is... The second guy in the trailer is completely brand new. His name is Nagoriyuki, and unlike Leo, okay, he is dressed in a white coat, carries a huge katana, or an okatana if I'm not mistaken, and he dons this gnarly demon mask before the fight starts, and it just looks so rad. And I would definitely recommend that you turn the volume all the way up, because come on, this is Guilty Gear we're talking about, and this is easily one of my favorite soundtracks in any fighting game series, or you know, they produce good music every time. So with that, yes, apologize to your neighbors, turn your speakers up, because this is going to be one heck of a trailer. And today we're featuring not just one, but two games, both from local developer Keybol Games. By the way, that's spelled Keybol. You can find them right here on Facebook, and yeah, like them, follow them, tell them I sent you. This is the first of the two titles we're featuring today. It's called High Noon Revolver. We're playing this on Switch, and this also happens to be available on Steam, so if you want to pick it up there, by all means do so. Of course, support local. And High Noon Revolver, by the way, is a 2D horizontal scrolling shoot 'em up, so it's very arcadey. It is an arcade style game, by the way, and it's very reminiscent of this one game that Capcom released all the way back in arcades and on the Famicom called Sun Sun. I'm showing my age here, but you're about to find out why. And basically, that game had multiple levels that you could jump up and down from, and of course the stage would just throw waves upon waves of enemies and bullets at you. And I played a bit of this earlier on, and I can say that this gets a bit more hectic than that. So of course you got multiple playable characters, some of which need to be unlocked. Well, I'll get to that later. So let's start off with Wesley. Good health stat, kind of pitiful in terms of damage, but has balanced movement speed, so let's go with him. And there's one thing that needs to be noted here. The soundtrack rocks so much. So let's get started. So of course, Act 1, Golden Scarf. He's got a $500,000 bounty, and I actually haven't gotten to the end of his level yet because I've just been messing around with the game, but we're gonna try to do that right now. Alright, so 3 levels, just press up and down to jump between them. You got enemies coming at you. It starts off pretty easy, but trust me, they'll crowd the screen pretty easily, and you got about 4 hits till you die. Pick up hearts while you're at it. I'm pretty bad at it right now, so there's another heart. Let's get that. Every checkpoint will fill the screen with enemies, and it's up to you to just clear that out before moving on. A chest pops up. It rewards you with either money or power-ups. So this happens at random, and the enemy placement during these particular checkpoints, these little skulls that you see at the bottom of the screen, it's random, so you'll never know what they're going to throw at you. I would say yes, this is a deviously made game. It's hectic, it's fun, and there's this really neat dash mechanic for quick movement. You can hit either L or R, and it's just going to boost you forward at great speed. And we're getting crowded here! It's a good thing that, yes, there are constant health pickups, and you have this screen-clearing move that you can access with just a tap of the A button. Let's try to get some room to breathe. Apparently, I'm not sure why Wesley's bomb doesn't work, but it's supposed to clear the screen. But anyway, you need to get in range of the enemies because your little revolver doesn't shoot full screen, only about halfway, so do take note of that. And of course, just hit Y on the treasure chests. You're given choices on different power-ups, so choose wisely according to your playstyle. Like, you get the Rusty Watch. These are just some of them. I think there's a whole bunch of these as you go along. I haven't really looked into how many power-ups there are in total in this game, but I'm assuming there's a treasure trove of them. So you get the Rusty Watch, which increases invincibility time. You have the Death Explosion, which I do not have enough coins for, and the Mind Block, which is also too expensive for me because I only have 13 coins. So let's get the Rusty Watch, which increases invincibility time. So when you get hit, you have a very brief period of invincibility, so they're called iframes, or invincibility frames. This basically adds to that. That's going to come in handy, so let's get that and move forward. Yes, even the range is kind of pitiful on this one, but we'll work with what we have. Besides, it's only a couple more checkpoints till the boss fight. All we have to do is persist. And of course, you've got enemies who are covered with shells and don't easily die from being shot. So just move around. It's all about movement and spacing here. You know, if you're familiar with old school shoot 'em ups, and this genre was just huge back in the day. It's still big in Japan in arcades, but in general, yeah, it's been more of a niche these days. But as a nice little diversion, if you need something that really tests your spatial awareness and reflexes, definitely recommend this. And it's a quick game to pick up and play. Let's say you're in a waiting room and you got your Switch with you. Sure, pop it open and play a few stages. It's got good replay value because, of course, enemy placement seems randomized and you've got unlockable characters. Plus, it is quite the challenge because, of course, more and more bullets are going to fill the screen. You're going to have to find ways to evade them. And I can see that they have a very clear bullet hell influence right here. Or, as known in Japan, it's called the Danmaku genre, where, yeah, it's a shoot 'em up, but they just relentlessly fill the screen with enemy projectiles, and you have to just expertly maneuver your way through them. So, let's see what we can get. Do I have enough hearts for... let's see. Let's get the monocle. That's going to add to our range. Or the slippery cartridge, which increases our attack speed. Let's get more range, because I want to stay far away as possible. Okay, this is the last checkpoint before the boss. Now let's try to keep going and not actually die before we get to that. Yeah, I've forgotten how hard these games can get. 2 hits. Need to run. I'm down to my last heart. There's one. There's a pickup. Let's get that. Alright. Still making good progress. Okay. I'm still down to my last hit again. And everything is just getting so hectic. Yeah, I'm really bad at shoot-'em-ups. But there you have it. High Noon Revolver. Highly recommend. Because as someone who occasionally loves shoot-'em-ups, it's nice to know that we have a local developer who made one of these, and it happens to be a really solid one. It's got some clear inspirations, and I love it all the more for it. The next game we're featuring today, of course, is Tower Tale, also from Keybol Games. Once again, a search for them, Keybol, right here on Facebook. And this time, it's a 2D action game. I wouldn't say adventure game, because instead of the usual going through an entire level and fighting smaller enemies and just fighting a boss at the end, this is a purely boss rush type of game. So it's a boss gauntlet, meaning you have to fight large, imposing enemies with huge health bars. And this time around, you got 4 playable characters, and of course a bunch of modes. Let's start with arcade mode, because story mode has got a bunch of lengthy cutscenes, and I'd rather that you just experience them yourself. But if you want to get right into it, and there is, of course, a straight up boss rush here, but it's unlimited random bosses. We want to take them in sequence, so we're going to do arcade mode, and of course we have 4 playable characters. One's a knight, an archer, a rabbit wizard, and I'm guessing a rogue or maybe a ninja. I'm not quite sure, but come on. With a name like that, Dark Echo, come on. That is possibly one of the edgiest names I've come across in a while. But let's go with Lionel Blueheart, our standard knight, and go with heroic difficulty. So do look at the tutorial mode, because it'll give you some pretty interesting tips on how to handle each character, and it was really helpful this time around, because I thought you just had your, standard jump, attack, block buttons, but of course there are some combinations that you can do. You can crouch, use the second attack button for some special moves, and there are some special properties that you can get out of certain moves, like, of course, as it says here, Lionel's dodge gives him 50% damage reduction because he has a shield up front and can destroy small projectiles. Using dodge also cancels your attack animation, canceling a huge thing in action games. Lasers and shockwaves cannot be dodged though, so do take note of that. And crouching recharges your stamina faster. We're playing on heroic difficulty, so bosses here will have multiple phases. Once you knock down the first health bar, you're going to move on to the second or third one, and of course the tactics, the moves will change quite a bit. So let's go. The first enemy is a gigantic wolf, as you've seen in some of the tutorial clips, so let's get to it. And hope I actually survive, because I tried playing this earlier and I died quite horribly. So let's keep at it. And there are ways to just get around this boss. I'm just glad that you don't take damage once you touch him. With most other enemies in a lot of games, you just come in contact with them and that already causes damage. Not the case here. You need to get hit by an attack. So there's a lot of leeway, I would say, and that's really nice of the devs to include that. Makes the game a tad easier. I wouldn't say it's like so much easier that it's a cakewalk, but it takes away a lot of the frustration of, just simply touching something and taking damage for it. So I greatly appreciate that. So Lionel right here has a dashing thrust. Took a bit of damage for that. A ranged attack, which I used at close range. And wait, let's wait for the second health bar to fill up. He has a rising slash, or basically a shoryuken, and a downward thrust, which you can press with X in midair. There you go. But of course, like in Dark Souls, just get behind the boss and just keep wailing away. I'm not saying that, you know, this is comparable to Dark Souls or anything, but it's just a similar tactic. Always get behind the boss and just dish out the damage. So keep going at it. This is, of course, the first boss you'll encounter, and it's fairly standard. Patterns are easy to recognize, and I'm guessing it gets crazier and crazier from there. So the Giga Frost Wolf is done. We're moving on to the second one, which happens to be a gigantic blob. It's gross, I'm gonna tell you now. It's, you know, the cartoony kind of gross, but come on, slime will always be slime. And the stage is called the Pit of Filth. To add on top of all of that. So you can dash and actually destroys projectiles, which is really handy. However, getting hit by them slows you down. Doesn't poison you per se, but it stops you from using specials. You can also just jump over them. Okay, he damages whenever he jumps. So he has sort of a Shoryuken too. So gotta watch out for that. Let's get to him at range. Of course, attacking uses up stamina, and so does dodging. That little bar beneath, of course, the HP bar is something you'll have to watch out for. So use it wisely. Crouching helps it recharge a lot faster. So down goes the first health bar. You get a little bit of life back, but not by much, so you still need to be careful in the second phase. Just duck under the projectiles. And watch out for all the falling stuff. That did me in during one of my earlier playthroughs. Of course, if you really want to bring the pain, then get up close. And then try to retreat when you think he's gonna jump. Oh, he is gonna jump. Or he was gonna jump. And that is it for Lionel's run. So there you have it. Tower Tale is a pretty interesting take on your 2D action game because it's just purely bosses. You got replayability in the form of course, multiple characters with fairly deep move lists, I would say. So you have stuff like animation canceling, which you don't normally get in a game like this, and I appreciate that it's there. And of course, I like the cartoony storybook style art style. It, you know, seems childish on the outside, but it's still pretty challenging. And yes, like High Noon Revolver, it's easy to pick up and play. Something I would recommend if you're in a waiting room or if you're just looking for something to, you know, just pass the time, like maybe a couple minutes. I would definitely put this there. And of course, available on Switch and Steam. And of course, up next, we will be talking to Barry Silvestre of Keybol Games, so do watch out for that, and I'll see you in the next segment. Of course, you're still here on Bonus Stage Plus. My name is Billy, and I did say we're going to have a friend dropping in, and we'll be talking to them. And for our very first guest on the show, we got Barry Silvestre of Keybol Games. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Billy.
How you doing? Hope everything's okay on your end.
Yeah, doing great. Healthy and safe naman.
All right, that's great. So before we begin, and you know, practically as the beginning of this entire interview, I'd like you to tell us more about yourself and the history of Keybol Games.
So, nag-start ako as a flash game developer mga 10 years ago, 2009, mga room escape games sinimulan ko. And then sa browser ko, pinapublish yung mga games na yun. So, anytime na may new game ako, gusto ko lang talagang magkaroon ng mga parang players na ma-interact para makita kung ano yung gusto nila sa game and nagustuhan nila sa game ko. And then eventually nalaman ko na pwede palang ipa-sponsor o i-monetize yung games. So nag-improve yung mga room escape games ko, naging platformer, naging physics puzzle, defense games. So hanggang sa nag-evolve into full-fledged browser flash game developer na eventually nag-shift to mobile and then ngayon sa Nintendo Switch, and meron din kaming PS4 and Xbox publishing licenses.
That's great. So would you guys say that you're one of the first Filipino companies to start publishing on platforms like Switch, PS4, and Xbox?
Yun ang siguro ang masasabi ko na we are one of the first na nag-publish, lalo na ngayon Philippine-owned and Filipino-made na games. So directly made by Pinoys.
That's awesome. And of course, two of the projects that you have on now, like the ones I've seen on eShop and Steam, are High Noon Revolver and Tower Tale, which, by the way, I played earlier on in the show, and they're pretty great. So can you tell me more about those two particular games?
Yung High Noon Revolver, actually, ito yung very first game na pinapublish namin last year. And ang ni-develop nito is Mike Renievo from Bicol. Ginawa rin niya yung Dungeon Souls na sobrang bumenta rin sa Steam ng last mga 3 years ago. So, to test our publishing license and para malaman ko rin yung mga technicals. So, iningi ko yung publishing rights kay Mike Renievo na nag-work din sa Keybol Games as art director and developer ng Jack Axe. And then yun, na i-publish namin within like ilang months of tinkering sa Switch platform, and nasundan ito ng, actually meron na una pa sa Tower Tale yung Grand Kills, but yung Tower Tale is a game naman ng Misu Games from Isabela naman. So yung Tower Tale is a boss rush game naman. Yung kanina platformer din pero more on Sonson, parang auto-scrolling na levels. Ito naman more on boss levels. And it's also nabalitaan ko siya nung nirelease siya sa Steam. So in-approach ko si Blast from Miso Games if gusto niya bang mag-publish ng game niya sa Nintendo Switch. And because yung game niya ready naman for a console game, and dinagdagan pa niya ng multiplayer, so lalo siyang mas bumagay sa Nintendo Switch.
Awesome. And I got to play those games, and High Noon Revolver is an unexpected bullet hell game, which I love that genre in particular. So yes, big ups to you guys, because I see myself spending more time in that now that I know what else is under the hood of that game. By the way, the soundtrack in High Noon Revolver rocks so much. Can you tell me just a little bit more about that?
I think nag-hire si Mike ng gumawa ng music niya. Hindi ko alam yung technical details kasi more on the publishing side ako ng Nintendo Switch.
I see. Anyway, moving on to our next question. I know these are some crazy times that we live in, and people are adapting, working from home, or just finding new working arrangements, especially of course with the pandemic going on. So I'm curious, how is the game development scene here in the Philippines adapting to the current situation? Maybe you're not maybe not as the scene as a whole, but at least for you guys over at Keybol, how are you guys doing that?
Yung sa amin kasi home base na kami noon pa, and ako nag-work na ako as a game developer sa bahay lang through email and Skype and Facebook lang ang communication. So hanggang ngayon ganun pa rin naman kami. So hindi masyadong affected except sa mga approval ng games, kasi nagkaroon ng parang nadagdagan yung approval time kasi nga lahat ng employee ng mga platform holders hindi pwedeng makapasok. So either ite-take home nila yung software na minsan confidential So nagkaroon ng parang issue on, hindi naman issue, nagkaroon ng parang new system ng approval ng mga games. So yun lang ang naka-affect sa
I see.
approval.
So things just slowed down a bit, but it's not even on your side. Things just go business as usual since you've been doing this since the start. All right.
Yeah, global yung ano. Yeah.
All right. Okay, on to something more casual. Of course, we're all here. This is a show about video games, and I gotta ask a question involving them. So, when you're not working, when you're not doing anything else, what do you play during your downtime?
Oh, so mga MTG Arena, yung Magic the Gathering card games.
You've been
And
playing a
yung
lot.
sa Switch naman, sa Switch naman, meron akong Nintendo Switch. So, more on mga party games. And then, like, sniper clips. Kasi may mga kids ako. So, naipaglaro lang ako sa kanila. Mario Party, gano'n. And yung Animal Crossing.
I see.
Yeah.
Animal Crossing is such a huge game this year, and would you agree that it came out at a very crucial time? Everyone's stuck at home. We have nothing else to do, and then of course Nintendo drops Animal Crossing. I mean, it's been scheduled way before, before the outbreak, but it just came. It's all I'm not sure whether to call it a fortunate coincidence, but there have been a lot of testimonials from people saying that, Animal Crossing helped me through a difficult time. And, on a personal note, it did for me too. So, it's easily one of this year's most important games. And just to add a little insight, since you did mention that you have kids, I, of course, am not a parent, but I have a niece. But still, having kids in your life, would you say, influences the kinds of games that you buy or play?
Oo naman. Yung mga, more on, tinitingnan ko muna, mag-enjoy ba yung mga anak ko. Like, sniper clips, binili ko yan dahil palagi nila pinapanood and meron kami ng demo. And yung mga Animal Crossing. So, nag-iba na nga, yung kinuwento ko sa yung mga games, more on, for family. So, yan.
Yeah.
Siguro yung ako na yung target ng mga games ng for family genre.
Oh yeah, I mean, I see game trailers and then there's always this question in the back of my head, like, will my niece actually like this? And it does affect how I look at games whenever I just browse through a store or something. And moving on to our next question, of course, being a game developer, you got influences and just sources of inspiration. But I'd like to know, and I'm really curious about this, what are your biggest influences that aren't specifically gaming related? Like from, let's say, other media, like maybe movies, TV, books and such. Do you pull from those sources, or are all of your influences just from other games?
Actually, mahilig ako sa mga movies and TV series na medyo parang psychological ba yan? Parang Inside Number 9, Black Mirror, and yung time travel movies, mga ganun. So, yung isang game ko, ginawa ko actually about time travel. So, nire-recreate mo yung past movements mo. And then you have to parang i-close yung loop. So, minsan ganun. May na-inspire ako about some movies and yung mga story even, na-influence din to have some of those parang plot or para sa mga games.
Awesome. And thanks for reminding me to check out Inside Number 9. I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos about that show, but I haven't really seen the show yet. So thanks for the reminder. I should really check. I also...
napanood ko.
Yeah, I also love
Kakapanood ko lang
Black
yung buong
Mirror.
season 4.
Oh,
Yeah, Black Mirror.
Yeah, it's 4 seasons in. All right. And okay, let's put this as our last question because we're on limited time today. But do you have any messages or tips for folks who might have just recently gotten out of college or looking for a new career? Do you have any tips for people looking to get into game development? What should they expect, or what skills should they come prepared with, and such?
My advice ko is yung may recently ako napanood na YouTube video. It's not about codings from scratch anymore. It's what you can reuse from whatever is nandyan na. So may mga asset store or mga code base na pagsisimulan mo. And then build on that to make it parang sarili mo instead of creating it. Kasi mas mabilis yung progress, mas mabilis yung procedure, yung mga mali nila nagawa na. So hindi mo na ma-recreate lalo sa mga bugs. So I'm speaking for mga programmers and na game developers na bago pa lang. So make use of what's we have on the internet. So and then build something unique kahit na maliit lang. And then just show the games. Masaya naman kasi mag-explore ng mga concepts and create ng mga bagong mga games na you put in yourself time into. So yun lang.
Alright, so it's basically work smarter, not harder, and all the stuff that you need is already online. That's a really neat message. And with that, where can we find you on the internet?
So it's meron kami website keybolgames.com, and meron din kami sa Facebook, internet, in Twitter, Instagram for at Keybol Games. So they can find yung mga new games namin na to be released like Jack Axe and No More War. Ito naman parang more on another classic na NES game. So they can check it out. Also, ngayon may dinidevelop ako sarili kong game na multiplayer. So first time kong gumawa ng online multiplayer for mobile. Based on, influenced by Poi Poi. Yung parang power stone siya. Pero less melee. Puro buhatan lang and batuhan.
Nice.
Yeah, so and kasama dito sila Gloco, Susisor, and Kaisaya. So
looking forward to that one.
Yeah, yun. Yan yung mga abangan nila sa Keybol Games.
Sweet. So we just have to follow you on your social media to find out more updates about that.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Barry. Of course, this has been Bonus Stage Plus. If you want to find us online, we are at 95PlayFM across a bunch of platforms. That is, of course, Twitter, Instagram. We're also on Facebook. Bonus Stage has its own Facebook page. That's fb.gg/bonusstage905. As for me, that is at @it_burns across a bunch of places too. I am on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch. Once again, Barry, thank you so much for being our first guest. This has been Bonus Stage Plus, and of course, we will see you next time.